introduction, my name's Hib Doe, and I'm the regional manager for the Voc Rehab program here in St. Albans. This is our 10th annual CWS Recognition Breakfast. Unbelievable. For those that don't know, Creative Workforce Solutions is an initiative of the Agency of Human Services that provides umbrella supports to a variety of people with disabilities and other types of barriers to employment. It encompasses several state and nonprofit agencies here in Franklin and Grand Isle counties, and most of whom are represented here today. It also, of course, covers most of the districts around the state. There's similar teams in every district around the state. CWS has certainly come a long ways in 10 years. 10 years ago, it was just an idea that Hugh Bradshaw, VR's Employment Service Manager, had. Hugh's right back here in the red tie. And it's become such a successful concept that now Hugh spends much of his time flying around to other states to kind of explain to them what we're doing here in Vermont. And due to Hugh's efforts, the St. Albans team actually has had other states. We've hosted other states like Nebraska and Kansas, or Nebraska, New Hampshire, and some others that have come up here to see what St. Albans team, which we like to think of as the best team in the state, is doing and why it works so well. I'm grateful to have everybody here. I'd like to especially recognize Mayor Tim Smith. Thanks so much for being here. Where are you, Tim? Oh, over here. Tim's always been a great friend and a supporter for CWS and over the years. And when folks saw him here, some people told me that it was probably mostly that he was here for the free breakfast. And I told him that wasn't true at all, mostly at least. And I want to thank the legislators who are here. Your efforts to keep Vermonters' economy growing and open to everyone with and without barriers is very important, especially to all of us here. Today's agenda is a special one. Some of our guest speakers today will talk about their own recovery from substance abuse or their experience of hiring people who do. I started my career nearly 30 years ago working with individuals with serious and persistent mental illness like schizophrenia here at NCSS. Back then, most lived in group homes or worked in sheltered workshops. There was one sheltered workshop in the basement of Ferris Street, and I've been around so long that building's been torn down now, and it's a parking lot for BFA, and which is a good thing. These folks at that time were kept away from the community in a lot of ways, which wasn't right, but it was what many thought was the best thing back then. Really, the Vermont State Hospital had just been significantly downsized about 10 years ago. There was a lot to learn about community integration. In my day, when we suggested trying to help these folks to get their own housing and employment, we heard from landlords and employers about a lot of stigma and fear that represented barriers to us and to our clients. But it was understandable given the times we lived in and how little the community knew about the capabilities of these individuals. In time, though, I'm very happy to report that we very successfully helped move almost everyone out to their own living situations, and many were able to find employment through some of the great employers and employment staff who are here today and were there then. That only happened because the community grew to accept the reality that people with mental health issues wanted the same things, like stable, affordable housing, and a good job that everyone wants. Many of us were willing to know them as family, neighbors, co-workers, and friends. So I think we find ourselves at a similar place with people with addiction issues. There's fear and stigma in the community on the surface, but a growing recognition that with treatment and support, this population wants all the same things in life too, and don't they really deserve it? We can't afford to leave them behind in our growing economy. We need everyone's talents to contribute to this community of ours that raised and nurtured them, myself, and many of us here today. We need them to be part of our future. I read a book recently by Johann Hari on addiction. He said in the book that the opposite of addiction is connection to each other, to the ones we love, our family members, the ones we work with, the ones we employ, or the ones who live next door. Research shows that they need that connection to recover. They need that connection to stay sober and stay clean. They deserve that as their family, their friends, and their community. We all owe them that. And really, we can't afford to leave them behind. In the speakers that will follow in our program, while we still have a ways to go as a community, I think you will hear how all of us are beginning to connect and doing a better job of not leaving anyone behind. So I wanted to introduce Katie Coe, who's our business account manager, who kind of shepherds our CWS team, and she'll kind of take us on with the program. So thanks, Katie.
Thank you, Hib. I guess I have to behave myself today because my supervisor, Hugh, is here, so I had to throw my original speech right out the window, but we're just going to go with it. And I also want to recognize we're a little behind on the schedule, and I know you all have a lot on your schedules as well. If you need to leave and we're still speaking, please feel free to get up and do so. We absolutely understand that everyone has a lot going on. But thank you for being here today. To quote Lily Tomlin, I said, somebody should do something about that. Then I realized I am that somebody. This really resonates with me and should resonate with each one of you here today. In my opinion, each one of you is the kind of person who decided to do something, to be a part of a solution, not part of a problem. You are not just full of talk and words, but you act. It is because of each person here today that we can keep Creative Workforce Solutions alive and successful. Together, this group is the reason that we send people into meaningful employment every single day. Meaningful employment that completely changes that person's life. As most of us know, but sometimes forget, a job is more than a paycheck. It is our connection to a bigger world, a world of meaning, respect, friendships, bonds, community connection, support, learning, and so much more. It enriches our lives. It is something bigger than we are. Something, again, that enriches our lives and makes us work harder, be kinder, and learn every single day. I have been so humbled this past year watching people change their lives by finding meaningful employment. When I first took the position of business account manager, I knew that the CWS team and this community of partners did amazing things, but to see it in action is a completely different thing. To hear such personal stories, to see those facing barriers and challenges that most of us couldn't even imagine, turn their lives around and find work, stable housing, buy a car, support their family, go back to school, and many more things. It's special and it's impactful. This doesn't just happen because of one person. It is most often due to a collaboration of folks, a real team effort. Incredible supports from agency partners, funding and training from the Department of Labor, support from counselors and employment staff with Voc Rehab, Faber, and CSS, and more. The chance to get a diploma, GET, or DATE computer classes at Vermont Adult Learning. Support education and programming such as MAPLE from Reach Up. Support community connections and treatment from local MAT programs and clinics. Amazing support, dedication, and hard work from the local Restorative Justice Center. Training and educational opportunities along with company tours from our local WIB. The list goes on, but most importantly, the support from our local businesses. Without the employers in Franklin and Grand Isle counties, there would be no collaboration to begin with. Without the acceptance and integration of progressive employment, our clients would miss out on several opportunities that quickly change and improve their lives. So today we want to thank you and honor you, our local businesses. You are truly the piece that makes us so successful. Thank you. And I'll leave off with this from Anne Frank. How wonderful it is that nobody need wait a single moment before starting to improve the world. My hope is that we leave here today and continue to improve our community one day at a time. And now I'm just going to go ahead and introduce one of our very own CWS members and one of the nicest people that I know. He is here to talk about his story of recovery, where he is today, and how important community support and employment was in that recovery. Everyone, please welcome Hal Porter.
Yeah, Melinda paid her to say that. Yes, my name's Hal Porter. First and foremost, I am a person in long-term recovery. I'm proud to say that, and I also feel it's a responsibility as a person in recovery to stand up and say, yeah, I am one of those people. Which is a term, do I need this?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I feel it is a responsibility as being a person in recovery to stand up and say, yes, I am in recovery. Yesterday was a pretty special day for me. I celebrated 9 years of continuous sobriety. Thank you. And that came with a lot of help along the way, believe you me. So, I guess the best way to start all of this is to really start from the beginning. It would be hard to understand how important employment is unless you have a firm grasp of the choices that I made along the way. So, start at the beginning. Way back in, 1976, 1977, there was a pretty popular movie that came out, and my mother took me to see it, and that was Smokey and the Bandit. And I'm dating myself a little bit. I was probably about 9-10 years old at that time. And of course, you know, Burt Reynolds and the fancy car was all the rage. I fell in love with the truck. And at that point, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to drive a truck, you know. And then unfortunately, within a year or two later, the first love of my life came in, and that was marijuana. And that dream of driving the truck went right out the window. And because I knew that I couldn't do both. And good, bad, or indifferent, many of the choices I made from that point on were based off of that. You know, it wasn't until later in life that I learned that sometimes to meet our goals, we have to change. At that point in my life, I changed my goals to meet my lifestyle. And that was pretty much dictated my life for the vast majority of it. To the point of, by the time I got to high school, it took me 5 years to graduate high school. And the main reason why is, those who remember, there was once upon a time in the state of Vermont that the legal drinking age was 18. I turned 18 at the very beginning of my first attempt at my senior year. School fell on the priority list. Why? Because working and drinking were my priorities. Graduating was not. I ended up being asked to leave halfway through that first attempt. I was given the opportunity to come back if I so wished. Made a decision to enlist in the Army, and the Army pretty much dictated that I needed that diploma. So I ended up going back and completing my requirements to get my diploma. My military career lasted about 6 weeks, halfway through basic training. Due to a medical issue, I was back in St. Albans, and shortly thereafter, I found myself in New Hampshire because that's where the better paying jobs were. Shortly thereafter, got married, had 3 beautiful children with that marriage, and started my career, so to speak, trying to provide for my family. Now, I will share with you one of the unique things that I have is I am one of those types that you start me at the bottom level and I will work my way up until my lifestyle becomes within conflict of that. I've lost quite a few really good jobs because of my substance use. I had a really good paying job in Brattleboro, Vermont. I got pulled over one night on my way home from work, and I was charged with possession of marijuana. One of the big wigs read it in the newspaper, and I was relieved of my duties at that position. And that's just one of many stories, you know. And yet, through that entire time, I was in complete denial that the substances were the issue. You know, it was always, you know, poor me, why do bad things always happen to me? And that went on. That went on for quite a few years. Good, bad, or indifferent, what dictated the job for me was always the bottom line. It was about the money, you know? It was a job. And usually when I was, for the most part, there, I did a really good job at my job. In 2000, my marriage ended. A lot of it had to do with my drinking. And I ended up back in St. Albans, Vermont. And the old military injury came back. Next thing you know, I'm in a doctor's office. And within a very short time, I'm being prescribed high amounts of pain medication. And that was the beginning of the end. I went through numerous jobs. I actually at one point embezzled almost $8,000 from an employer. I'm happy to say that I have repaid every last penny of that. But it got to the point where the substances took the precedent. And I was unemployable. It wasn't that I was unemployed, I was unemployable. I could not maintain a job. The very last job I held before I got into recovery I was actually second shift manager at Tireless Clothing. And I literally walked away from it because I just couldn't do it. I couldn't maintain the lifestyle, my addiction, and also maintain gainful employment. So I just walked away. And for the next almost 5 years, I did not work. I was basically one of those people, you know, that I was manipulating the system for everything and anything I could get. The other thing that I would like to mention too is during that time, my world became very small. The minute I quit working, the amount of people that were interacting with me in my life became very few, to the point where there was literally maybe 3 or 4 people that I had contact with. And I will share with you some of the ones I did not have contact with was my family and my children. It was basically, what could I get from you and what do I got to do to get it? And those were pretty dark times for me. In 2008, I made a decision. You know, MAT, medicated assisted treatment, was an option. The doctor had kicked me off the pain medication because I was clearly abusing them. And I made a decision to get on the MAT program. 2008, I went to Maple Leaf Farm up in Underhill. And at that point in time, the only thing I had on my radar is I wanted the medication. Believe it or not, I was still in complete denial. I knew my life was pretty bad, but recovery, totally off my radar. Didn't know what it was. To be honest with you, really wasn't interested in it. But here I am, you know. One of my so-called friends dropped me off at the bottom of the driveway. And here I am with my little go-along suitcase behind me, walking up the driveway, and I look up on the side of the building, and there was a big sign that used to hang there. And it simply said, "You are no longer alone." And I will share with you, at that moment in my life, I never felt more alone than that moment. What did I get myself into? That was the thought, you know. And there was nobody there but me. I was there for almost 4 weeks. I completed the program. I got the referral. And I got a taste of what recovery was. problem with recovery is you got to make some changes. And I was still fairly defiant on making any changes. But I was back in St. Albans. I got linked up with the Howard Center, and I got involved with our 12-step community and was doing some meetings. And, you know, I had a couple of really big misconceptions early in my recovery. One, drugs and alcohol are my problem. If I just alleviate the problem, I have no problems. Yeah, that's a big problem. Because misconception number 2 is, as long as I'm clean and sober, life gets better. Well, life does get better to a certain degree, but guess what? Life still happens, you know? You don't get that job, you know? Your girlfriend still breaks up with you or whatever. Life still happens. The problem is I've just alleviated the 2 coping mechanisms that I use my entire life for dealing with life when life happens. And where does that lead me? Hanging on for dear life. Knowing I don't want to pick up a substance, but having this overwhelming compulsion that I don't know what else to do because I can't deal with what's going on. That was the lesson I learned when I went back to Maple Leaf Farm in 2009. That I had to change. And one of the primary reasons when I went back to Maple Leaf Farm is because I didn't want to be on the medication anymore. The cool thing about going back to rehab for me was I already knew what to expect. So there wasn't that limbo time of, you know, kind of what's expected of me, what do they expect, you know, kind of that week of kind of figuring out what's going on. This time I went back and I hit the ground running. And I had a couple of things, agenda items that I wanted to complete this time. One was to get off the medication. 2, believe it or not, I wanted to get my license back and possibly get my CDL. And actually revisit that childhood dream of driving the big truck, you know? And there was a couple other things. I won't get into the whole, they wanted to put me back on a medication, I had to come back off it, all that happy stuff. But I ended up walking out of there shortly after August 8th of 2009. The first time in my entire life completely clean and sober of all substances since I was a teenager. And when I say teenager, I mean early teenager, like 13, 14. First time in my entire life completely substance free. I came back to St. Albans. That wasn't in the plan. I wanted to do a transitional house in Burlington. It didn't work out that way. You know, because St. Albans was my problem. Didn't want to come back here. But I ended up back here. You know, a few months went by. I got reconnected with the Howard Center. I got reconnected with the 12-step community. And, you know, Katie made the comment earlier. And it is about connections, you know. Those first few months that I was back in St. Albans, the 12-step community opened their arms. And there were some individuals that said, you know, we can't put you to work, but if you want to come up and do some yard work, we can throw you a couple of bucks. And that's what I did, you know. 10, 15 bucks here, $20 there. But it gave me something to do. And then a few months went by, and I walked into a local grocery store. In fact, the one that sits right over here, Food City. And I just wanted a job, you know. In my working career, I've done a lot of things. I worked in the automotive business for numerous years. Never as a mechanic. I was a service manager at one point, assistant parts manager at one point. I was assistant store manager to Advanced Auto Parts when they opened that. I had a long record in sales and whatnot. Actually managed stores. And I walked into Food City, filled out an application, met the manager, full of fear, because on paper, I had nothing. You know, when somebody asks, looks at your application and says, well, how come you haven't worked in 5 years? You know. I am truly grateful that she looked at me and said, when can you start? And I said, I can start right now. That first job in recovery was working a couple of nights a week cleaning the floors and 3 mornings a week stocking vegetables in the produce department. And I was glad to have it. One of the most important reasons why, and I think this is shared through most people, because all of a sudden I felt like I was part of society again. Having that job gave me normalcy, because now I'm just like everybody else. I got a job, I get up, I go to work, I earn my own keep. I can't tell you how important that was, just to have some normalcy again. I will share with you that job turned into making donuts, something I'd never done in my entire life. Al, can you think you can make some donuts? Oh, okay. Now, if you're local around this area, and I don't know what the donuts are like anymore, but about 6-7 years ago, Food City had the reputation of having the best donuts in town. You're looking at it. That position turned into a department management position. I was deli and bakery manager for about 2 years. And, but the thing is as time went on, it was still just a job. You know what I mean? You ever have bad things happen and at the time you think they're really bad, and then in hindsight you figure out that it's probably the best thing that ever happened in your life? For whatever reason, an opportunity was presented to me from the Vermont Recovery Network. They had received a grant and they were looking for a part-time position as a pathway guide. And a nice lady approached me and wanted to know if I was interested in that position. And I said I would be happy to. And not too long after that, for whatever reasons, Food City decided that it was time to let me go. Now that is a funny story all in itself. I showed up to work that morning, usually between 5 and 6 a.m. The store manager comes in and, says, I need to talk to you. We sit down and she's like, blah, 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 gonna have to let you go. Next thing I know, she's in tears. I know that you'll bounce back, you'll be fine. I'm like, I'm good, Gave her a hug, thanked her, and picked up my stuff and I left. The next 2 things I did were hugely important. First and foremost, I went home and I called Department of Unemployment and Training, filed for unemployment, and then most importantly, the second call I made, I called CCV, and I enrolled in college for that summer semester. I started classes at CCV at the age of 47. I can remember sitting in that class the very first day, 47 years old. I haven't done this since 1984, I'm the old dude, And there again, just that same thought that I had that first trip at Maple Leaf Farm. Oh my God, what did I get myself into? Last June, I graduated CCV with my associate's degree in human services with substance abuse certificate. And the thing that blows me away more than all of that, Mister took me 5 years to get through high school. Not only did I graduate, but I graduated with 3.8 GPA. My second year at CCV, I was also awarded a leadership award, which is granted to each one of the campuses. It also came with $1,000 tuition, which completely blew me away when I was awarded that. And you know, today I'm in a position where I have the opportunity to help others. And the ironic thing is back in 2008, if you would have asked me this is where I would be and what I'd be doing, I would have laughed at you. I would have said ain't no way. One of the biggest things I've learned today in recovery is that I can change to meet my goals. Because life is all about change, you know? And even today, you know, there's still adversities. Life still gets hard at times. But I have those connections. I have those people that I can lean on, that can give me the confidence to keep moving forward. I'm actually at a point right now where an individual is helping me out. There's a position that I would dearly like to have. And unfortunately, I don't have the credentials. I have the experience. I have the experience all day long. But I don't have the credentials to hang on the wall. And this individual has thoroughly convinced me that regardless of the credentials, I should go forward with this. And I'm doing it, you know? And we'll see where it goes, you know? Employment is one of those stepping stones early in recovery. That is essential because it provides one normalcy. I'm not one of those people. I am one of you, you know? And that's really the mindset and the feeling that comes from having that job, that now I'm part of society again, you know? And then it's the connections. It's having that connection. I work with a great bunch of people. I really do. I mean, it's almost a dream job. And it isn't even a job, you know? I get to wake up, and believe me, I don't spring out of bed going, woo-hoo, yeah! But I also, since I've been in this position, have never woken up and said to myself, if it wasn't for the paycheck, I wouldn't be getting out of bed. Because every single day, I am given an opportunity to possibly say something or do something that might influence or change somebody's life. And how do you put a price tag on that? There is one thing I have come to accept, though. In the field of human services, you do not retire a millionaire. And that's okay with me because what I receive in pay is far, far greater than anything monetary. So, I don't know if I hit all the barriers or whatnot, but it's been a pleasure and an honor to stand up here and just share with all of you, you know, some of my experiences and kind of the path that's led me to where I'm standing today. So, with that, thank you.
I want you to know how that I told a group the other day, a support group, that you would do a song and dance if they came to our event in September at the hospital. So start working on it now because people are expecting something pretty special. So I'm just saying. Next up, I'm going to introduce the poor guy who has to deal with me more than my husband does. Sorry. Shane Collins. He's an employment consultant in our office and one of the supervisors as well. So Shane, come on up.
Thank you, Katie. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. I have the pleasure of introducing Alicia and Harmony. Alicia, over here, she's a client of mine. She's been the office manager over at the Restorative Justice Center since April. And Harmony is the operations coordinator. She's the manager over there who gave her a chance. And I just wanted to thank you guys very much for speaking today, and for letting me talk you into speaking.
Okay, so I'm extremely nervous, but I'm going to give this a go. I'm Alicia Kane. I want to thank Voc Rehab for having me here today and start off with a quote that I think really fits my experience. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it, by Steve Jobs. My path has not been a straight or easy one. There have been setbacks, challenges, and disappointments. When I lost a job placement that I loved due to conflict in my personal life, I reached out to Voc Rehab and they set me up with a counselor within a day. They made themselves available to me quickly and with more than one support. In the lowest point of my life, they made me feel like I was not alone. Voc Rehab was great about making things a team approach. They didn't do things for me, but with me. They helped me do multiple work experience so I could give feedback and explain what I did and didn't like about each experience. Both Shane and Nan challenged me to step outside my comfort zone, and if they hadn't, it wouldn't have pushed me to be where I am today. I struggle with depression and anxiety, and Voc Rehab made sure to check in with me regularly and to find a balance of encouraging me without pushing me too hard. Their sensitivity to my struggles and thoughtful approach made me feel like I was wrapped with support. The past 4 months, I'm excited to share that I found a position I really enjoy and excel at. I'm working at the Franklin Grand Isle Restorative Justice Center as an administrative assistant and front desk receptionist. The Justice Center, and specifically Harmony, really worked closely with Voc Rehab to make this a good experience and to make sure I had the supports and opportunities that would most benefit me. I really enjoy organization, whether it's paper files, scheduling, prioritizing what case managers need, or coming up with new systems. I love how the staff relies on me and my support. I feel like a vital part of the organization, which makes me want to get up in the morning and go to work where I feel both needed and supported. As the front desk person who greets all clients, I have an opportunity to create a positive environment as I am the first point of contact for clients who are often struggling with a myriad of issues. In my role, there is constantly opportunity to grow and learn and expand. I feel privileged to have the opportunity to prove what I am capable of, both to myself and to the agency. This was not my first experience with Voc Rehab. In one way or another, they have supported me over the past 10 years and have continued to help me grow and learn. I am thankful for both the organization and for the compassionate people, specifically Nan and Shane, who have worked with me. Thank you again.
More nervous than Alicia. My name is Harmony Bourgeois. I'm from the Franklin Grand Isle Restorative Justice Center. I have a few titles there. Operations coordinator, program manager, and I work with all our programs for Grand Isle County. I am grateful to have this opportunity. I want to thank Voc Rehab for the amazing breakfast, as well as providing a fantastic platform to meet people, really take a step back from our day-to-day, and be grateful for all the community resources that are available to us. It's pretty fantastic, actually. More specifically, I wanted to thank Shane Collins for his dedication to his work. Shane really gets to know people. I feel he's able to effectively match his clients with opportunities that are best suited for them, and then in turn us, the employers. I know firsthand what an amazing job Voc Rehab does with this. Prior to Alicia, we struggled finding the perfect fit for us at the front desk. That's when we began work with Voc Rehab. After voicing my concerns to Shane and further explaining our needs to him, he was able to introduce us to a few well-qualified candidates that were willing to commit to a work experience. It's kind of like a test run. That was actually perfect for our situation, as it gave us the opportunity to get to know the potential hire as well as them getting to know us, really. It allowed his client the opportunity to work closely with us and decide if it would be a right fit for everybody. I feel very fortunate to have this opportunity, and the greatest thing of all is we found Alicia. She fit all the things we were looking for and more, and in only a few short months, she's an extremely valuable member of our team, and we're lucky to have her. So for that, I thank Shane and everybody at Voc Rehab for their commitment to success. Thank you.
Thank you, Harmony and Alicia. Next up, I'm going to invite Melinda Lucier White to come up and introduce our next speaker. And also, Melinda was playing the music this morning, so thank you. It was beautiful. Very talented.
Thank you. I love making noise. I also did it so I could get the French toast breakfast. So I'm going to introduce our next speaker. I'm really excited. I'm going to avoid eye contact with him because I don't want to get emotional here, but you know, as many people know, I'm a person in long-term recovery addiction from alcoholism and opiate addiction and all that good stuff. And I had a number of treatments, and I also had a number of overdoses. And when I first got introduced to the 12-step program in this area, this young man was actually there, clean and sober. So I really admired meeting somebody else in the area that was in recovery. And over the years now, because we're talking, this was about 9 years ago, since then we've both kind of ebbed and flowed where we're both retreads. And it's just amazing as time has gone on to see the growth on this young man's behalf, because he's one of the superstars that I have met in this community where, just like me, when we mess things up, we do it big, but boy, when we're on our game, we do it really big. And I'm so excited and proud of him. He is a superstar in a number of different organizations and different hats that I wear. I continue to hear his name brought up by how good he's doing, and quickly too. Very dynamic. I've taken him to the schools with me. We do outreach with local troopers, and he's come to the schools a number of times to talk to the kids over the last, I think, 5+ years. Very effective. People really take to him, so I'm really, really proud of this guy. Feel like he's a little brother. And also his employers here as well also feel a very close connection with him, and really excited to have them both come up and share a little bit. So I'm going to ask both Patrick and Mike to come up, if you would. And you're going to get just a little taste of somebody in recovery who's done amazing, but also an employer who took the opportunity to employ this young man and what his journey is and what it means to him. And then they might have a connection. It was probably on the last name on the card. I was hoping to save that as a surprise. But they also have a connection as well as family. So it's just a really beautiful story. And I'm going to start with Patrick just giving an overview of his story, and then what it means to be employed in recovery, and then also for Mike to be able to share his perception on this.
It's all yours.
Thank you. All right. Morning. Thank you, Melinda, for asking me to be here. Just the fact that I can show up today is saying something. There's been a long period of probably the last 10 years where if I was asked to do something like this, I probably would have said yes and then found an excuse to back out last minute, or not even an excuse, just not showed up. I don't have to do those things today. My last opiate use was May 24th of last year. That's the longest time I've ever had since I started using at 15 years old, free of substances. So certainly happy with that. I want to start by saying, just because I put the substances down, my life didn't immediately get better. It was still a mess for the first 5 or 6 months that I was sober. It was a mess until I got offered a job, basically. I was in a depression, riddled with anxiety, couldn't get out of bed, didn't really know what the issue was. I thought if I put the drug use down, things would be okay, and they weren't. So around the first of the year, I reconnected with my dad. This is my dad. After a lot of years of damage done, bridges being burnt. We reconnected and there was a job offer, which was an incredible break for me. I wasn't doing anything, so obviously I accepted it right away. And it sort of just put into place for me like a schedule and a routine, some responsibility that really just started moving my life in the right direction. I started setting goals, accomplishing those goals. I think maybe the most important thing for me is it's given me an opportunity to explore and try to find, I guess, like a passion, something I'm good at, something I can take and run with. I haven't had the opportunity to explore any of those things. I was good at manipulation. I was good at lying. I was good at doing not so great things to get what I wanted, but I wasn't good at working hard to get what I wanted. So it's given me an amazing opportunity to not only regain the work ethic, but also become closer with my dad, and hopefully set something up for my future. So without a job, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I appreciate being here and being able to share with you guys. Thanks.
Good morning. I want to start off with a quote from Winston Churchill in regards to Pat's recovery and where we're going. We're not at the beginning, we're not at the end, but we are at the end of the beginning. And you want to help me? I didn't think this was going to happen. But it's been a long road, and I'm very, where we are right now, I thought we'd get here, didn't know when we'd get here, didn't know how we would get here. When Pat and I did reconnect in January, the opportunity was there for, with my business to bring someone in to do what Pat has done, with the understanding that he'd spent about 10 years with substance abuse and having virtually no skills, had to really learn how to actually work again, show up, pay attention to the details, and we're still working on that. We're not quite there yet, but we are a lot further ahead than we were 8 months ago. My business has succeeded or excelled, I guess, in particular this year because of the contribution that Pat has brought to it and the changing of the dynamics of our business and me not having to do virtually everything and being able to rely on someone to take care of those the minutia of my business so I can do what I do best and he does what he does best. So I had mentioned to Melissa earlier, as an employer, Melinda, I always, as I said to Melinda earlier, as an employer, and I think Tim can probably speak to this, my patience level is not always at the best of levels, but employing someone in recovery requires a great deal of patience and understanding that they are going to have their ups and downs, as we all do. And the complication of addiction and recovery just, I think, just makes that up and down that much greater. And so I've learned a lot myself in the last 8 months, and it's been a very heartwarming, growing experience for both of us to move this forward. And I obviously, as an employer of a family member, it's certainly different than you employers that employ people off the street. And we live together, we work together. That challenges every day to make sure that we are communicating and figuring out when things aren't going well as enjoying when they are. So it's been a great experience. I'd do it again. There are a lot of people that are in recovery that need chances. And I created that opportunity for Pat because it was there and it was available, and I wanted him to succeed, and he's done a great job. So thank you for listening to us today. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much, Patrick and Nick. We appreciate it. So we're going to kind of wrap things up here. We have kind of one more agenda item, and it's something new this year that we're doing, and it's the CWS Person of the Year. And so again, this is the first time that we're doing it, but we really want to start recognizing those folks in our community who are providing that unprecedented support, training, and assistance to our clients. This year, the CWS Person of the Year Award is going to the dedicated instructor of our local Clean Sweep program. I don't think I could say enough wonderful things about you, Tim. We recently had a class or a couple of folks go through the Clean Sweep program in May. And Tim follows up with people. If they don't show up, he gives them a second or a third chance. He really wants to get them through that program. And not only does he help them through the program, he took them out to lunch after to celebrate being done, and then helps them find jobs. He's calling me saying, hey, there's these really great job leads or some jobs at the schools. I think this would be great. He's like, I'll be the job coach. I can do, just way above and beyond anything that we could ever imagine. And I know that Hib wants to say something as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've been working with Tim for a lot of years, and some years back when I was a counselor here in the St. Albans office, I worked with a client who came to us, and he had some emotional anxiety issues and some attention deficit problems, and it was really hard for him to kind of stay on task, but we thought that maybe a custodial program job might be a good thing for him, and it was something he was interested in doing. And so we set him up at Northwest Tech with the Clean Sweep program, and Tim was the instructor there. And he went through, and he did great. And then they ended up hiring at BFA, St. Albans here. And it was perfect because in some ways I think Tim might have been a supervisor. And Tim, because that was his job then too. And Tim set him up at the school in an area where this guy could just do his job. He wasn't there to micromanage him and say, you got to do this and this and this. It was like, hey, you got to get this whole area done. You do it the way you need to do it, and we'll be good. And that worked great for this guy. And so, he got hired full time. It was a great job with benefits in the school system. It was a living wage. The whole deal was good. And then, he moved on, and I didn't hear from that guy for a while. And then about 2 years later, I get a phone call in St. Albans, and it's this guy. And now he's working at the Howard Center down in Burlington, and he's one of their head custodians and part of their facility. And he said, hey, Hib, he says, we're really looking for people down here. And if you got anybody, that program I went through was awesome. If you got anybody who's been coming through it, we'd be happy to see them and, send them down to us. So it was just such a great success story. And Tim, thank you so much. You continue to do that work. You're helping people get jobs, and you're just awesome. And you're a very important part of this community in CWS. And, yeah, all right. Thank you.
In true Katie Co fashion, I broke the frame. So I'm going to get you a new one. So just be careful. Tim Westover on this day, August 9, 2018, as our 2018 CWS Person of the Year. So we just want to wrap up with some thank yous today. Katie and her crew, her husband Jamie here at One Federal, thank you for a delicious breakfast and a great venue. If the train didn't go by a few times, it just wouldn't be the CWS annual breakfast, so it has to happen. And again, Melinda White for the amazing, talented music. Thank you so much. Allison Roy in the back. All of our creative stuff is done by Allison. She's amazing, so she puts together save the dates, our invites, our certificates, so thank you. And then she and Allison O'Neill worked on our decorations, and then, of course, the entire CWS team, all of our agency partners, everyone that showed, I can tell he wants it, so I'll stop. And I don't want to forget anybody.
Chloe.
Yes, Chloe Viner Collins, who's here today being our photographer. And then also Joe Halco here is going to be writing our press release, so thank you so much for covering that. And then for all of you that came from all over, thank you so much. We could not do this without you. It's an honor to be here today. We hope that everyone enjoys the rest of the day and has a great summer, and we look forward to seeing everyone again very soon.